Hey everyone, I'm Chase from the Basecamp team. I'm here with another interview for you so you can kind of get an idea of how different people are using Basecamp. Danielle, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're using Basecamp for.
Sure. My name is Danielle Pasternak. Hi to everybody. I'm the owner of DPNAK Weddings. DPNAK coming from a shortened version of my name, but basically the company is a wedding coordination and planning company that helps couples kind of navigate through the world of weddings and then kind of help with their actual wedding day itself so that they can just enjoy themselves and enjoy their guests and family and friends that came to see them. And throughout that process, we use Basecamp basically to keep everything as organized as humanly possible and give them a little bit an area basically to, have discussions, organize their thoughts, schedule appointments, all that jazz. And basically, it's been a huge help in helping to keep things a little bit more out of their email inbox and in a little bit more of an organized environment for
See, I wish I had thought to use Basecamp for my wedding because I think it would have just
them.
made everything so much simpler. But for us, it was lots of emails and oh my gosh, where did we put that one email? And I can't find that file. And it looks like with your projects, they just tend to be concise and everything in one place.
Exactly. It kind of helps instead of, I keep a really organized inbox, but I know not everybody else does. And I think I only do that because I sit in front of a computer for so long that if I don't keep an organized inbox, I go kind of crazy. So with that, in using Basecamp, it kind of helps them to, if they have a little bit of a jumbled inbox, they still have a little bit of a private place to be and to go to that allows them to, it's kind of their little happy place where they can upload their vendor contracts, they can upload, the menus, they can forward in emails that they've been having with their caterer or whatever it is. It just kind of helps. And I think one of the biggest things I noticed them using is the calendar. They're able to add their appointments in there, and I see it, so I know, okay, they're going to be meeting with the florist coming up soon. I can touch base with the florist and say, hey, this is what we've got working on. Afterwards, I can follow up and say, okay, how did that meeting go? And it just kind of helps eliminate them having to say, okay, Danielle, I'm going to be meeting with the florist. What should I be asking them? It just kind of helps take a lot of the back and forth off of everybody's plate, and I can just kind of monitor everything from behind the scenes and just kind of do my thing in the background. So
That's awesome. So you've got a project that you're going to show us today, which is one of the weddings that you're working on. And can you kind of guide us through how you typically lay out a wedding like this?
yep. So what I do, and this is just a sample wedding. I didn't want to give away too much of the my own client's personal information, but what we're doing is basically this is just a sample wedding, and this has all their information. So I start at the top with their name and their date. I always put the date first because it helps me to see chronologically what weddings we have coming up, and then below it where they're going to be getting married. This is Little Lake Farm, one of my favorite little rustic venues up here in Northeast PA. Working down the screen, we've got obviously the latest project updates, but we have their upcoming dates. So what I do right out the bat, as soon as the project's created, I put in their rehearsal date as well as their wedding date, so that that bit of information is in there and on the calendar to start with. And then from there, we start adding more and more things as we go. So with the discussions, what I will do is basically, if I were to email a vendor, I don't do it this as often as I could, simply because sometimes people are getting a lot of different emails vendor-wise. But what we could do and have them from time to time is actually email a vendor and say, okay, we're 6 months out. I've attached a timeline for you. We use Google Docs all the time for timelines, so the fact that Basecamp integrated the Google Docs in is fantabulous in our book. And basically this way we can shoot out the email, the vendor can write back. They're not in the actual Basecamp project. They were just sent it as an email. Um, but they can basically respond and go from there without really causing too much of a hiccup or extra step on their side. We do have a recommended vendor list that we also have as a Google spreadsheet that all of our clients get as soon as we start their Basecamp. This is already preloaded in. A lot of the stuff is actually preloaded in. Same thing with this whole thing of how to stay in touch with myself, all my different contact information, as well as just a little hello to get them started.
And what do you mean
For
preloaded in? That's just you've got a standard template set up and
I
you
do,
create just
yes.
straight from that template.
Yep, because so many of our clients, I found myself each time I would create a Basecamp project, I would be adding in the same to-dos, and it got a little bit time consuming. So, and that was pre-Basecamp templates. So once the templates came out, it almost became a no-brainer for me to just
Yeah.
load everything in, and then I would load the whole soup to nuts, A to Z, everything in, and then once I have it in there before I publish it, I would just start taking things out or adding, specific things in that the
Mhm.
client itself needed or didn't need. Um,
That's awesome.
on
And
the back.
speaking of to-dos, so you've
Oh,
got, you've got some client things going on,
mhm,
some to-dos that the client can't see, and then some that they
correct.
can see. Can you kind of
Yep.
walk us through how you've got your to-do list organized?
Yep. So what I did, I'm a list person through and through. So what I decided to do was to give myself each template, there's this project startup. So I know everything as I go through. When I bring on a new client, I like to just make sure I've got everything covered. Um,
Hmm.
so I basically created a list for myself that said, okay, I need to add a folder here. I need to transfer all the emails. I need to add a folder to Google Docs, the whole nine yards, basically, so that as I start the project, I just go through and say, okay, I did that, and I did that, and okay, I did that, and eventually it just goes down to nothing as soon as the project is ready to get published. Um, and then I also have a behind the scenes, which kind of keeps me on track for things as we're going through the project.
Hmm.
So instead of saying, okay, what day is it? Okay, today's the 22nd. Do I have anybody getting married on the 22nd? Do I have to shoot them an email? Because I try to email them on the months out, so on the 3 month out and what have you. So this was basically like my little thing, like, okay, in 3 months I have to check in with the vendors, and what I'll do is I'll go in and put this would be August 8th. I'd put in a due date for myself, so the day before I would get a reminder and say, okay, tomorrow I need to check in with those vendors. I'm going to send them a timeline link, and then once it's done, I just check it off and I know I have it completed. Um, so that kind of helps keep me on track behind the scenes. We're working with 20 different clients at any given time, so it kind
Hmm.
of helps just to automate the reminders for me to do it. We still do the actual process manually, but the reminders just kind of help to keep us on track, so that we're doing things in a timely fashion and not going, oh crap, last week was their 3 month until their wedding day and we didn't send them an email. And because life happens, you know what I mean,
Right.
sometimes you just have busy days and you forget that what day it is, and then things just plow on from there. So for our vendors too, or for our clients rather, we have questionnaires that we put, and we use the actual text documents
Hmm.
in Basecamp, and I'll scroll down to it. So we created a little like family questionnaire, and what they do is they edit it and they fill in all the information, and then we kind of take all that information and make it into a timeline, but it kind of keeps everything in one spot that we can reference later. So we've added little to-dos that, so this is when we want you to complete the getting started one, this is when we
Hmm.
want you to do the vendor one, this is when we want you to do the wedding party questionnaire. So that way, as they check it off, it's done, and they can just move on with it from there. Another thing we have in here is their payments and balances. When I start, we have um, just our payments in there, and then as they fill out the questionnaires, if they want, they can let me know what their balances are and when those balances are due with their other vendors, so their
Hmm.
florist, photographer, whatever. And what I do is I add them as a little to do, so that as those dates approach, they get little reminders that say, oh yeah, that payment is due. And the vendor will likely send out a reminder as well, but this just kind of puts it all in one spot that they can see, okay, I've got this payment coming up, and I've got
Hmm.
a little, a few more weeks until I have to make that payment. Often we'll add in when their, guest counts are due, things like that. And then the new thing we started doing, which I'm particularly jazzed about, is we used to send out an actual discussion that had just bullet points of things that they should be doing. So once it hit the 6 month mark, we'd say, okay, it's 6 months out. These are the things you want to be working on this month.
Hmm.
Um, and then each month thereafter we would start usually at 12 months or more and just start working down from there. And what I found was that I would get an email back with the list copied and pasted, and they would write notes after it, or they would write like, okay, I did this, like, done, and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And I started saying like, well, geez, Danielle, this is dumb doing it this way. We can do it as an actual checklist, and there's so much more gratification in hitting that stupid little checkbox than having to write an email back and saying all this stuff. So what they can do now, as you know, is they can say, okay, either I don't, okay, maybe I don't need to hire a calligrapher. They can either check it off or just delete it.
Hmm.
Um, or I've already hired my hairstylist and makeup artist. That's done. I don't, I got my health shots, whatever it may be. But if not, they can always click on it and say, well, we don't know who should we hire for our bartenders. And
Hmm.
basically, we can have a discussion right under this to do, and it makes it just so much more logical in my head, and I think in my client's head as well, that that would be how we would have a regular discussion. So instead of copying and pasting back and forth and bullet points and formatting, it's just kind of a little bit more easy peasy. So, and these I go from 12 months all the way down to it gets into weeks, and then the day before the wedding. So these are all, again, part of the template, and I tweak them as I need to once the client comes on board. But they so I basically only had to type them in once,
I love
making it a little
yeah,
bit more easier. So
I love that you're detailed down to like little things like charge your cell phone. Like
yeah,
on
well,
my
it's just
wedding
it's
day,
things
nobody
that
reminded me about that, and to have it as like a base camp to do, that would have been awesome to make sure that I had that done.
Yeah, and it's things like these types of things, these lists. I when I first start sending them out, I kind of just do a general comment. I click on the list itself, and I just add a general comment underneath saying, okay, here's the list. And what the clients tend to do is typically a mom is invited in, a maid of honor. The groom's usually invited in if he wants to be part of this whole process. And what that allows the client to do is she can say, okay, this is going to be assigned to my, maid of honor, and I want her to do it on the 31st. So this way it
Nice.
allows the client to kind of, kindly delegate, like to say, like, hey,
Mhm.
Susie, I need you to make sure I've got my underwear, and I just need your help to make sure I've got everything there. And this kind of gives Susie a little bit of a reminder too. Um, since she's in Basecamp already, she has an idea, but it just kind of allows the client to say, okay, I'm going to do this, you're going to do that. And, they can even assign it to me. They can assign it right to Danielle to do that. So
Mhm.
I really like that part a lot. So,
That's awesome. So, how
yeah.
are you? Are clients generally receptive to you using Basecamp to plan out their weddings like this? Like, what do your
Yeah,
clients think about it?
very rarely do I have a client not like it. If anything, they will sometimes get excited, and we just start going back and forth via email. But I eventually kind of get them back into their Basecamp project.
Hmm.
But I really, the reception to it has been really great, because so many clients just feel like it organizes their thoughts. They're able to upload all of their files into everything. They're able to just see everything all in one spot instead of having to bounce around through old inboxes and stuff like that. So many of my clients work full-time jobs, and then some. They're balancing their personal life, they're balancing so many different things while planning a wedding, which is why they brought us on to help them with it. And this kind of makes them a little bit more cooler and calm and collected, so that as they're planning their wedding, they're not pulling their hair out as much. And they're, when their friends are like, oh, I had the hardest time planning my wedding, I had so many emails, and they can just kind of throw their hair back and say, well, I've got Basecamp, I've got DPNAK, so we're good, we've got everything organized. So makes them look infinitely cooler.
That's awesome. Well, Danielle, thanks for sharing your Basecamp with us. I hope it gave everybody some tips and ideas for wedding planners that are using Basecamp, or if you're getting married soon and want ideas about how you should
Yes.
be planning your wedding. Here it is. So yeah, thanks for showing that to us.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me.